For decades, Joel Osteen has been one of the most recognizable faces in American Christianity. With his ever-present smile, positive messages, and the massive reach of Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas, Osteen built an empire that extended far beyond the pulpit. His sermons, broadcast to millions each week, promised hope, prosperity, and the power of faith to transform lives. His books became bestsellers, his stadium-sized church filled to capacity, and his influence reached into homes around the world. But in recent years, the story of Joel Osteen has taken a dramatic turn. Scandals, criticism, and shifting tides in American religion have left many asking, will Pastor Joel Osteen ever work again? And what does his life look like today? To understand the rise and the recent challenges of Joel Osteen, you have to start with his beginnings. Born in 1963, Osteen was the son of John Osteen, a respected pastor who founded Lakewood Church in a converted feed store. Joel grew up surrounded by faith, but he was never the obvious heir to his father's ministry. In fact, he spent years working behind the scenes, producing the church's television broadcasts and avoiding the spotlight. It wasn't until his father's sudden death in 1999 that Joel reluctantly stepped into the pulpit. What happened next was nothing short of remarkable. With his easygoing style and relentless optimism, Osteen transformed Lakewood Church into the largest congregation in the United States. He moved the church into the former Compaq Center, a sports arena that once hosted the Houston Rockets, and filled it with tens of thousands of worshipers each week. His sermons, focused on self-improvement, abundance, and the power of positive thinking, resonated with a generation hungry for hope. Osteen's message was simple. God wants you to be happy, healthy, and successful. For millions, it was exactly what they wanted to hear. But as Osteen's star rose, so did the scrutiny. Critics accused him of preaching a prosperity gospel that prioritized wealth and personal success over the deeper, sometimes more difficult truths of faith. Theologians questioned his lack of formal training and his tendency to avoid controversial topics. Others pointed to his lavish lifestyle, multi-million-dollar homes, luxury cars, and designer suits, as evidence that he was more interested in profit than prophecy. Osteen, for his part, brushed off the criticism, insisting that he was simply sharing a message of hope and encouragement. The turning point came in 2017 when Hurricane Harvey devastated Houston. As floodwaters rose and thousands were displaced, Osteen and Lakewood Church faced a firestorm of criticism for their initial reluctance to open the church's doors as a shelter. Social media erupted with accusations of hypocrisy and greed, and Osteen's carefully crafted image took a major hit. Though the church eventually did open as a shelter and Osteen defended his actions, the damage was done. For many, the incident confirmed their worst suspicions about the man behind the smile. In the years since, Osteen has struggled to regain the unassailable position he once held. Attendance at Lakewood Church has fluctuated, and the broader trend of declining church membership in America has not spared even the biggest megachurches. Osteen's books still sell, but not at the record-breaking pace of his early years. His television broadcasts continue, but the audience is more fragmented, with younger generations turning to new voices and platforms for spiritual guidance. Meanwhile, Osteen's personal life has come under increasing scrutiny. Reports of internal conflicts at Lakewood, questions about the church's finances, and ongoing criticism of his theology have all taken their toll. Osteen has remained largely out of the public eye, granting fewer interviews and making fewer public appearances. For a man who once seemed unstoppable, the silence has been deafening. So, what does Joel Osteen's life look like today? Is he truly finished, or is there a new chapter waiting to be written? The answer is complicated. While Osteen remains a wealthy and influential figure, his days as the undisputed king of American televangelism may be over. The world has changed, and the challenges he faces are unlike any he has encountered before. Whether he will ever return to his former glory, or whether he even wants to, is a question only time will answer. To truly understand Joel Osteen's current situation, it's important to look at the forces that have shaped both his ministry and his public image. Osteen's rise was fueled by a unique blend of charisma, timing, and a message that resonated with millions. But the same qualities that made him a superstar have also made him a lightning rod for criticism. In the age of social media, every word, action, and misstep is amplified, dissected, and debated by a global audience. For Osteen, the scrutiny has been relentless. After the Hurricane Harvey controversy, Osteen's every move was watched more closely than ever. Critics pointed to his wealth, his reluctance to address social and political issues, and his unwavering focus on positivity as signs that he was out of touch with the struggles of ordinary people. The prosperity gospel, once seen as a fresh and hopeful message, began to lose its luster in a world grappling with inequality, injustice, and uncertainty. For many, Osteen's sermons felt disconnected from the realities of life in 21st century America. Yet, despite the backlash, Osteen's core supporters have remained loyal. Lakewood Church still draws thousands of worshipers each week, both in person and online. Osteen's books continue to find an audience, and his social media presence is massive. He has mastered the art of digital ministry, reaching millions through YouTube, podcasts, and live streams. For those who believe in his message, Osteen is a beacon of hope in a world that often feels dark and overwhelming. But the cracks in the foundation are hard to ignore. Attendance at Lakewood has fluctuated, and the church has faced financial pressures as donations have declined. The COVID-19 pandemic hit megachurches especially hard, forcing them to adapt to virtual services and new ways of connecting with congregants. For Osteen, the shift was both a challenge and an opportunity. He embraced technology, but the sense of community that once defined Lakewood has been harder to maintain in a digital world. Meanwhile, Osteen's personal life has become increasingly private. Once a fixture on talk shows and at public events, he now keeps a lower profile. His wife, Victoria Osteen, continues to play a prominent role at Lakewood, but the couple has faced rumors of marital strain and internal church conflicts. While there is little concrete evidence to support these rumors, the speculation has added to the sense that all is not well behind the scenes. Financial transparency has also become a point of contention. Lakewood Church, as a non-profit religious organization, is not required to disclose detailed financial information. This lack of transparency has fueled suspicions about how donations are used and how much of the church's wealth benefits the Osteen family personally. Reports of Osteen's lavish lifestyle, his then $10 million mansion, luxury cars, and designer clothes, have only intensified the criticism. For many, the image of a pastor living in opulence while preaching about God's blessings is hard to reconcile. Despite these challenges, Osteen has not abandoned his message. He continues to preach about hope, faith, and the power of positive thinking. His sermons are carefully crafted to avoid controversy, focusing instead on universal themes of love, forgiveness, and personal growth. For his supporters, this consistency is a strength. For his detractors, it is a sign of unwillingness to engage with the real issues facing society. The question remains, will Joel Osteen ever return to the heights of his former influence, or has his time in the spotlight come to an end? The answer may depend as much on the changing landscape of American religion as on Osteen himself. The rise of new voices, the decline of traditional church attendance, and the growing demand for authenticity and accountability have all changed the rules of the game. Osteen's brand of good faith may still have a place, but it is no longer the only option. As for Osteen's life today, he remains a wealthy, influential, and polarizing figure. He continues to lead Lakewood Church, write books, and reach millions through digital media. But the days of unchallenged dominance are over. The world has changed, and Osteen's future, like that of so many public figures, remains uncertain. Whether he will ever work again in the way he once did is a question that only time, and perhaps Osteen himself, can answer. As Joel Osteen's public persona has shifted, so too has the conversation about what it means to be a spiritual leader in the modern era. Osteen's approach has always been different from that of traditional pastors. He rarely speaks about sin, judgment, or the more challenging aspects of faith. Instead, he focuses on encouragement, self-improvement, and the idea that God wants everyone to live their best life. This message, while uplifting to many, has also drawn criticism for being shallow or lacking in theological depth. The debate over Osteen's theology is not new, but it has intensified as the world has changed. In a time of social upheaval, economic uncertainty, and political division, many people are looking for spiritual leaders who are willing to address difficult topics head-on. Osteen's reluctance to wade into controversy has made him seem out of step with the times. While other pastors have spoken out on issues like racial justice, poverty, and climate change, Osteen has largely stayed silent, preferring to keep his sermons focused on positivity and personal growth. This strategy has its advantages. By avoiding divisive topics, Osteen has managed to maintain a broad appeal, attracting followers from a wide range of backgrounds and beliefs. His message is accessible, easy to understand, and free from the fire and brimstone rhetoric that turns some people away from organized religion. For many, Osteen's sermons are a source of comfort and hope in a world that often feels overwhelming. But there is a downside to this approach. As the culture has shifted, so too have expectations for public figures, especially those in positions of moral authority. The demand for authenticity, transparency, and social engagement has never been higher. Osteen's carefully curated image, once seen as a strength, is now viewed by some as a liability. Critics argue that his refusal to address real, world problems makes his ministry feel disconnected from the struggles of everyday people. The impact of these changes can be seen in the numbers. While Lakewood Church remains one of the largest congregations in the country, attendance has fluctuated, and the church's influence is not what it once was. Younger generations, in particular, are seeking out new forms of spiritual community, ones that are more interactive, socially engaged, and willing to grapple with difficult questions. Osteen's brand of positivity, while still appealing to many, is no longer the dominant force it once was. In his personal life, Osteen has responded to these challenges by becoming even more private. He rarely grants interviews, and when he does, his answers are carefully measured. He avoids controversy at all costs, sticking to the themes that have defined his ministry from the beginning. This has led to speculation about his future. Will he step aside and let a new generation take the reins at Lakewood? Or will he continue to lead, even as his influence wanes? For now, Osteen shows no signs of stepping down. He continues to preach, write, and maintain a presence on social media. His supporters remain loyal, drawn to his message of hope and encouragement. But the world around him is changing, and it is unclear whether Osteen will be able to adapt. The challenges he faces are not just personal. They are emblematic of the broader shifts taking place in American religion. The rise of digital media, the decline of traditional church attendance, and the growing demand for social engagement have all forced religious leaders to rethink their roles. For Osteen, the question is whether his message can evolve to meet the needs of a new generation, or whether he will remain a figure from a bygone era. The answer will determine not just his own future, but the future of Lakewood Church and the millions who have looked to him for guidance. As we look at Joel Osteen's life today, it is clear that he stands at a crossroads. The days of unchallenged influence are over, but the story is not yet finished. Whether he will ever work again in the way he once did remains to be seen. What is certain is that Osteen's journey is a reflection of the changing landscape of faith in America, a landscape where the old rules no longer apply, and the future is anything but certain. The shifting tides in Joel Osteen's life and ministry are not just a reflection of his personal choices, but of the broader changes sweeping through American religion and culture. The megachurch era that Osteen helped define is facing unprecedented challenges. Across the country, church attendance is declining. Younger generations are seeking spiritual fulfillment outside traditional institutions, and the public is more skeptical than ever of religious leaders who seem out of touch or overly focused on wealth and success. For Osteen, these trends have created a new reality, one where the old formulas no longer guarantee success. Lakewood Church, once the crown jewel of the megachurch movement, has had to adapt to these changes. The days of packed arenas and record-breaking book sales have given way to a more fragmented digital audience. While the church still draws thousands in person and millions online, the sense of unity and excitement that once defined Lakewood has faded. The COVID-19 pandemic accelerated these trends, forcing the church to pivot to virtual services and online outreach. For many congregants, the experience of church has become less about community and more about content, something to be consumed on a screen rather than shared in person. This shift has had a profound impact on Osteen's role as a leader. The skills that once made him so effective, his charisma, his stage presence, his ability to connect with a live audience, are less relevant in a world where digital engagement is king. Osteen has tried to adapt, embracing social media and live streaming, but the competition is fierce. New voices, new platforms, and new forms of spiritual expression are emerging every day. For a generation raised on authenticity and transparency, Osteen's polished image and carefully crafted messages can feel out of step. Financial pressures have also mounted. While Lakewood Church remains wealthy by most standards, the costs of maintaining a massive facility, producing high-quality broadcasts, and supporting a global ministry are significant. Donations have fluctuated, and the church has faced criticism for accepting federal relief funds during the pandemic, a move that many saw as hypocritical given Osteen's personal wealth. Questions about financial transparency and accountability have only grown louder, adding to the sense that the golden age of Lakewood may be over. Amid these challenges, Osteen's personal life has become even more private. He and Victoria have largely retreated from the public eye, focusing on their family and the inner workings of the church. Rumors of internal conflict and leadership struggles have circulated, but little concrete information has emerged. What is clear is that the pressure of leading a global ministry in a rapidly changing world has taken its toll. Osteen, once the face of American optimism, now appears more cautious, more guarded, and perhaps more uncertain about the future. Yet, despite all these changes, Osteen's core message remains the same. He continues to preach about hope, faith, and the power of positive thinking. For his loyal followers, this consistency is a source of comfort in an unpredictable world. For his critics, it is a sign that he is unwilling or unable to adapt to new realities. The divide between supporters and detractors has only grown wider, with each side more entrenched in their views. The question of whether Joel Osteen will ever work again in the way he once did is ultimately a question about the future of American religion itself. The era of the celebrity pastor may be coming to an end, replaced by a new generation of leaders who are more engaged, more transparent, and more willing to tackle difficult issues head-on. For Osteen, the challenge is to find a way to remain relevant in this new landscape, to connect with a changing audience without losing the essence of what made him successful in the first place. As we look at Osteen's life today, we see a man at a crossroads. The world that once celebrated him has changed, and the path forward is uncertain. Whether he will choose to reinvent himself, step aside, or simply continue as he always has remains to be seen. What is clear is that the story of Joel Osteen is far from over. His journey, with all its triumphs and setbacks, is a reflection of the broader changes shaping faith, leadership, and community in the 21st century. As Joel Osteen faces the realities of a changing world, his story has become a case study in the challenges of modern leadership. The qualities that once propelled him to the top, relentless optimism, a polished image, and a message of abundance, are now being tested by forces beyond his control. The rise of social media has democratized influence, giving a platform to new voices and making it harder for any one figure to dominate the conversation. For Osteen, who built his brand on mass appeal and carefully managed messaging, this new environment is both an opportunity and a threat. One of the most significant shifts has been the growing demand for authenticity. Today's audiences are quick to spot anything that feels rehearsed or insincere. They want leaders who are willing to be vulnerable, to admit mistakes, and to engage honestly with the complexities of life. Osteen's critics argue that his unwavering positivity can come across as tone deaf or disconnected from reality, especially in times of crisis. Supporters, on the other hand, see his message as a necessary antidote to negativity and despair. This tension has defined much of Osteen's recent career, as he tries to balance the expectations of his loyal followers with the demands of a more skeptical public. The financial side of Osteen's ministry has also come under increased scrutiny. Reports of his personal wealth, the church's acceptance of federal relief funds, and questions about how donations are used have all fueled debate about the ethics of prosperity preaching. For some, Osteen's success is proof that faith can lead to abundance. For others, it is a troubling example of the commercialization of religion. The debate is not unique to Osteen, but as one of the most visible figures in the movement, he has become a lightning rod for criticism. Despite these challenges, Osteen has shown a remarkable ability to adapt. He has embraced new technologies, expanded his digital presence, and continued to reach millions through online sermons, podcasts, and social media. His books remain popular, and his influence extends far beyond the walls of Lakewood Church. For many, Osteen is still a source of hope and inspiration, a reminder that faith can provide comfort and direction in uncertain times. Yet the question of whether he will ever work again in the way he once did lingers. The world has changed, and the era of the celebrity pastor may be drawing to a close. Younger generations are seeking new forms of spiritual community, ones that are more interactive, inclusive, and socially engaged. The old model of top-down leadership is giving way to a more collaborative approach, where authenticity and accountability are valued above charisma and showmanship. For Osteen, this transition presents both risks and opportunities. He could choose to reinvent himself, embracing a more transparent and engaged style of leadership. He could step aside, allowing a new generation to take the reins at Lakewood. Or he could continue as he always has, trusting that his message will continue to resonate with those who need it most. Whatever path he chooses, the impact of his ministry, both positive and controversial, will continue to shape the conversation about faith in America. In his personal life, Osteen appears to be focusing on what matters most: his family, his faith, and his core community. He has become more selective about public appearances, choosing to engage with audiences on his own terms. Those close to him describe a man who is reflective, cautious and aware of the challenges ahead. While the days of unchallenged dominance may be over, Osteen's journey is far from finished. As we look at Joel Osteen's life today, we see a leader navigating uncharted waters. The world that once celebrated him has changed, and the future is uncertain. But in that uncertainty lies the possibility of growth, transformation, and new beginnings. Whether Osteen will seize that opportunity remains to be seen, but his story is a reminder that even the most successful leaders must adapt to survive. As the story of Joel Osteen enters its latest chapter, it's clear that his journey is emblematic of the broader shifts taking place in American faith, leadership, and culture. The man who once stood at the pinnacle of the mega-church movement now finds himself navigating a world that is more fragmented, more demanding, and more skeptical than ever before. The question of whether he will work again in the way he once did is not just about his personal future. It's about the future of spiritual leadership in a rapidly changing society. Osteen's life today is a study in contrasts. On one hand, he remains a wealthy and influential figure with a sprawling mansion, best-selling books, and a global audience that still tunes in for his messages of hope. On the other hand, the aura of invincibility that once surrounded him has faded. The controversies, criticisms, and cultural shifts of the past decade have left their mark, forcing Osteen to adapt in ways he never anticipated. He is no longer the undisputed king of American televangelism, but rather one voice among many in a crowded and competitive field. The challenges Osteen faces are not unique to him. Across the country, religious leaders are grappling with declining attendance, changing demographics, and the rise of digital spirituality. The old models of leadership, built on charisma, authority, and mass appeal, are giving way to new forms of engagement that prioritize authenticity, transparency, and community. For Osteen, this means finding new ways to connect with his audience, to remain relevant in a world that is constantly evolving. In recent years, Osteen has taken steps to adapt to this new reality. He has invested heavily in digital outreach, expanding Lakewood's online presence and embracing new platforms to reach younger audiences. His sermons are now available on YouTube, podcasts, and social media, allowing him to maintain a global following even as in-person attendance has declined. Osteen has also become more selective about his public appearances, choosing to engage with audiences on his own terms and focusing on the core message that has always defined his ministry: hope, faith, and the power of positive thinking. Yet, for all his efforts to adapt, the world around Osteen continues to change. The rise of social justice movements, the demand for greater accountability from religious leaders, and the growing skepticism toward prosperity preaching have all challenged the foundations of his ministry. Younger generations, in particular, are seeking spiritual communities that are more inclusive, more engaged with real-world issues, and more willing to wrestle with difficult questions. For many, Osteen's brand of optimism feels out of step with the complexities of modern life. Despite these challenges, Osteen's story is far from over. He remains a symbol of the possibilities and the pitfalls of modern faith leadership. His journey is a reminder that success is never guaranteed, that influence can be fleeting, and that even the most powerful figures must adapt or risk being left behind. Whether Osteen will find a way to reinvent himself and his ministry for a new era remains to be seen, but his impact on American religion is undeniable. For his supporters, Osteen is still a beacon of hope, a source of comfort in uncertain times. For his critics, he is a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition and the limits of positivity. For everyone watching, his life today is a fascinating case study in the challenges of leadership, the demands of authenticity, and the ever-changing landscape of faith in America. As we look to the future, the story of Joel Osteen serves as both a warning and an inspiration. It is a story about the rise and fall of a modern icon, about the power of faith to transform lives, and about the need for leaders to evolve in the face of change. Whether Osteen will ever work again in the way he once did is ultimately less important than the lessons his journey offers to all of us: the importance of resilience, the value of authenticity, and the enduring power of hope.